Hi there. I'm Amelia. My parents once told me I was too ambitious, too undeserving to help. They gave my sister a beautiful lake house, while I was left fighting for scraps. But what hurts more than betrayal is realizing it was never about love. It was about control. They stole my trust, forged my name, mortgaged everything, without a second thought. And the day I found out, it didn't break me. It built the fire that burned everything fake between us. How far can family go before they stop being family? The night before my scheduled meeting with the bank, I sat in my tiny apartment, notebook open on my lap, hopeful for once. Maybe, just maybe, my parents would recognize how hard I'd worked to get here. Maybe they'd want to help their daughter finally own her first home. The ringtone snapped me out of my daydream. "Mom and Dad," flashed across the screen. I grabbed the phone so quickly, I nearly dropped it. "Hi, sweetheart," my mother's voice cooed. "We've been thinking about you, about your situation." Something about the way she said situation made my stomach knot. Before I could respond, she continued, "Your father and I talked, and we don't think helping you buy a house is the right move right now." The words hit harder than I expected. I tried to process, to find a way to salvage the conversation. I thought, maybe, after everything, Dad cut in, his voice gruff, impatient. "You're too ambitious, Amelia. Always chasing, pushing. Men don't like women who act like that. It's time to slow down, find someone, settle. You're not getting any younger, you know." It felt like the floor dropped out from under me. Years of independence, sacrifice, late nights building my business. They reduced it to some desperate need for a husband? "I understand," I managed, even though I didn't, not even close. I gripped the notebook tighter, the pages bending under my fingers. "Thanks for letting me know." "Love you, honey," Mom said, a little too brightly, before hanging up. The call ended. The apartment felt colder somehow, emptier. I stared at the wall across from me, the colorless beige seeming to stretch on forever. This wasn't just about money. This was about control. Always had been. When Dad lost his job 5 years ago, who picked up their mortgage payments? When Mom needed surgery, who covered the deductible insurance wouldn't? Me. It had always been me. Quietly, without asking anything in return. Yet here I was. Ambitious? Yes. And apparently punishable for it. I closed my notebook and set it aside carefully. No slamming, no drama. They would never see my anger. They didn't deserve the satisfaction. If building a life meant walking this road alone, so be it. I'd been doing it alone for years anyway. I just hadn't admitted it to myself until now. I turned off the lamp, letting the darkness settle around me. Somewhere deep inside, something shifted. A quiet, sharp line being drawn in permanent ink. They had closed the door. I wasn't going to knock again. The morning after that decision carved itself into my bones, I went through the motions. Coffee, emails, more coffee. The world outside my window spun on, uncaring of the silent war unraveling inside me. Weeks passed in a strange blur, each day sharpening the edges of my resolve. 2 weeks later, sitting in the same threadbare armchair, I scrolled mindlessly through Facebook while sipping lukewarm coffee. My thumb froze mid-scroll. There it was. A post from my mother. "Wanda Carter feeling blessed," the caption screamed above a collage of smiling faces, my parents, Carla, and behind them, a sprawling, sun-drenched lake house. Balloons spelled out, "Congrats, Carla," over a pristine wooden deck. Champagne glasses gleamed in their hands. Blessed indeed. I stared at the screen, each image carving another gash across my chest. No call, no text, not even a casual mention. But there they were, throwing a party, celebrating my little sister's milestone. The same parents who said helping me would be unwise. The same father who lectured me about debt. The same mother who worried about my image as a single-driven woman. And here they were, shamelessly crowning Carla with a lakefront palace. Scrolling through the comments felt like pouring salt in an open wound. Aunt May, "She deserves it after everything she's been through." Uncle Joe, "Finally settling down, huh? Proud of you, kiddo." Settling down. Of course, Carla, the professional damsel in distress. No stable job, no real plans. Just a string of almosts and maybes trailing behind her like loose threads. But she needed saving. That made her lovable. That made her worthy. I slammed my laptop shut harder than necessary, the echo ricocheting off the apartment's bare walls. They didn't even bother hiding the favoritism anymore. No invite to the housewarming. No fake excuse about being busy or out of town. Just silence. Maybe they never wanted a daughter who fought her own battles. Maybe love in their world came with strings attached. The more helpless you looked, the tighter they tied them around you. My heart thudded against my ribs, not from sadness, but from something rawer, something closer to fury. I stood, the chair scraping sharply against the floor, and paced the room. No more polite smiles, no more silent nods. If they could celebrate Carla's fabricated fairy tale without shame, then I would reclaim my worth without guilt. I didn't know how yet, but a fire had been lit, steady and burning. And this time, I wouldn't be the good daughter who sat quietly while the world handed her nothing. The fire inside me didn't die after that night. It smoldered, fed quietly by every fake smile and every memory of the times I had been the reliable one, invisible unless needed. 3 weeks later, a slow, steady rain tapped against the windows as I sat in my cramped home office, sorting a year's worth of paperwork for tax season. Receipts, statements, folders labeled with permanent marker. It was mindless work, and for once I welcomed the distraction, until I saw it, a transfer, a large one, $10,000, sent to my parents' account just 6 months ago. I frowned. That money was supposed to be for Dad's hospital bills. At least that's what they'd said when they asked. I flipped through the papers again, my fingers stiff. There it was, clear as day, labeled Emergency Medical Expenses. A knot tightened in my stomach. Something felt wrong. I picked up the phone, called the hospital where Dad had supposedly undergone treatment. After navigating through endless hold music and polite but indifferent operators, I finally reached billing. "No, ma'am," the woman said, typing something on her end. "There's no outstanding balance on Mr. Carter's account. His insurance covered everything last year. There's no payment needed from family members." The rain outside blurred against the glass, distorting the world beyond my window into muted, colorless smears. I hung up without thanking her. For a moment, I just sat there, staring at the bank statements. One transfer turned into 2, then 3, emergency after emergency. Tuition help for Carla, mortgage help for my parents, car repairs, health insurance gaps, each labeled with just enough urgency to silence any suspicion. And now, a lake house. The betrayal was so thorough, so systematic, it almost deserved admiration. Almost. My jaw tightened. Years of sacrifice, of pulling overtime shifts, skipping vacations, ignoring my own financial goals, all built on a lie. They hadn't seen me as a daughter. Not as a person, just a resource, a wallet with legs. The realization didn't come crashing down. It seeped into me like slow poison, coating every memory with a bitter aftertaste, every thank you that felt hollow, every "we're so proud of you" that now sounded like mockery. I pushed the papers away, standing so fast the chair squealed against the hardwood floor. No more silent giving, no more letting them dip their hands into my life like it was their birthright. If betrayal was a family tradition, I was ending the cycle, even if I had to burn the whole illusion down to do it. The rain had returned, drumming steady against the windows as twilight bled into night. I stayed at my desk, the piles of papers now less a project and more a battleground. Somewhere between the insurance forms and the old loan agreements, my fingers hesitated. Something wasn't right. A signature, my signature, glared up at me from a loan application I didn't remember authorizing. My name, in familiar curves and loops, but the tail of the A in Amelia curled too tightly. Whoever had done this had almost gotten it right. Almost. My hands went cold. I flipped through the stack with growing urgency, my breath quickening with every page. There it was again. And again. Student loans for Carla, a refinancing document for my parents' mortgage, even a personal line of credit tied to my name but never touched by me. It wasn't sloppy. It was meticulous. Planned. I leaned back in the chair, the fake leather creaking under me. My mind raced through the possibilities, each one darker than the last. This wasn't some impulsive mistake. This was a system, a long, carefully orchestrated theft of not just my money but my identity. They hadn't just leaned on me for help. They had stolen my trust and forged it into shackles. My stomach twisted violently, but no tears came. Only a sharp, brutal clarity. I thought about every time my parents had praised me in public, for being so responsible, for being such a blessing. What a joke. They hadn't been proud of me. They had been proud of how easily I could be used. I grabbed my phone, thumbs flying over the screen. I typed a message to my mother, to my father, to Carla. Cold, clipped, undeniable. I know about the signatures. I stared at the message, my finger hovering over send. No, not yet. They weren't ready for the war they had started. And I wasn't going to warn them before I was fully armed. Instead, I saved the draft, tucking it away like a loaded gun. Next time they crossed a line, it wouldn't be silence they received. It would be fire. Morning came with a cold determination threading through my veins. I dressed with mechanical precision, slipped into my coat, and drove to the bank. Not to beg, not to borrow, but to lay foundations for my own future, not the wreckage they'd tried to leave me in. The meeting was supposed to be routine, checking on my savings, exploring investment options. Routine until it wasn't. The banker, Mr. Lyle, a graying man with kind eyes, frowned at the screen longer than usual. He leaned forward, voice dropping low like we were conspiring. "Miss Carter," he said carefully, "did you co-sign a second mortgage recently?" The words hit like a slap. "No," I said sharply. "Why?" He hesitated, then turned the monitor toward me. There it was, black and white. My parents' house, once fully theirs, now tied to a massive loan taken out just 6 months earlier, co-signed by Carla, and facilitated by Stuart and Wanda. Not a whisper to me, not a courtesy call. They had put everything they had on the line. Not for me. For Carla. The bile in my throat burned hot as fire. "Can I see the documents?" I asked, my voice a scalpel. Minutes later, I sat in a private room, flipping through copies. My name wasn't there, thank God, but it didn't lessen the sting. My family had mortgaged the home I grew up in, risked losing it, to bankroll my sister's fantasy life by the lake. No conversations, no warnings, just betrayal signed in ink and sealed with champagne smiles. I traced the shaky signatures. Stuart's bold, practiced scrawl, Wanda's careful loops, Carla's uncertain hand, almost hesitant, as if she knew, deep down, she was building a castle on stolen ground. The walls around my heart hardened another inch. They hadn't just seen me as a wallet anymore. They had started betting the house without blinking, and I wasn't going to wait for the wreckage to bury me too. Driving home, I didn't blast music. I didn't cry. I plodded. Each breath was a brick stacking in my own fortress. I sat down at my desk and drafted a letter. Formal, cold, and precise. A certified warning. Any further attempt to tie my name to financial dealings without my explicit written consent will be met with full legal action. I printed 2 copies, one for my records, one for them. I sealed it, addressed it, and set it aside with grim finality. Family, once lost to greed, became nothing more than strangers in shared blood. And if they thought my silence meant surrender, they were about to learn just how loud war could be. The letter was sent. The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was a pressure cooker set on high. I could feel it hissing under the surface, waiting for the first crack to split everything wide open. But I didn't wait for them to react. I moved first. 2 months later, on a cold, gray morning that matched my mood, I walked into the county courthouse. Not as Amelia Carter, betrayed daughter, as a buyer, as the hammer they never saw coming. Damian Cross, my attorney, stood beside me in a dark suit, calm and unreadable. It had been his idea to create a proxy company, to mask my identity, to make the purchase clean and airtight. No messy family drama attached to the paperwork. The auction room was a dull, hollow place. Rows of folding chairs, the faint hum of fluorescent lights, a stale smell of old coffee, a handful of bitters shuffled papers, checked phones. No one paid me any mind. Perfect. When the property came up, the lake house, my heart hammered once, then settled into a steady, icy rhythm. The auctioneer's voice droned. Opening bid at 150,000. Damien nodded subtly. We placed the bid. There was a murmur in the room. Some interest, but nothing fierce. This wasn't some glamorous estate. It was a debt-sunk house built on illusions. The bids ticked upward in sluggish increments. I didn't flinch. Neither did Damien. Finally, with a sharp rap of the gavel, the house was mine. No applause, no music. Just the quiet folding of papers and the scratch of pens signing away a dream they had bankrupted themselves chasing. As we stepped outside, the winter air slapped my face. I inhaled deeply, letting the cold burn through me, not as punishment, as purification. Their greed had forced this. Their greed had gifted me this. Back at home, I sat by my window with a cup of coffee growing cold in my hands, staring out at the gray skies. In a few weeks, the ownership papers would be finalized. My name wouldn't appear anywhere in public records, thanks to Damien's careful maneuvering. To the world, the house would belong to a faceless investment firm. To me, it was a symbol, not of victory, but of self-rescue. No grand speeches, no Facebook announcements with champagne toasts, just a quiet reclaiming of everything they thought they could control. When the envelope arrived, thick, heavy, final, I opened it slowly. Inside, the deed. The house was mine. They bet everything on me staying silent. They lost. The paperwork was barely dry when the first cracks began to show. 1 week after the deed was in my hands, I woke to my phone buzzing nonstop on the nightstand. Texts, missed calls, screenshots. At first, I thought something had happened. A car accident, an emergency. My stomach twisted in that half-awake panic, but as my eyes focused, the reality burned colder. Carla had gone live. I opened Facebook and there it was. A shaky, poorly lit live stream. Carla in full meltdown mode, sobbing so hard her words slurred together. "She just left us to drown," she wailed into the camera. "After everything our family sacrificed for her. My parents are losing everything because she's selfish. She's heartless." Behind her, Mom's voice chimed in faintly. "We gave her everything, and this is how she repays us." It was a performance. A gut-wrenching, nauseating play staged for pity clicks. The comments rolled in fast. "How could a daughter do that? Stay strong, Carla. Family should stick together." I put the phone down carefully like it might explode. It wasn't enough for them to stab me quietly anymore. Now they wanted to parade my blood around for sympathy. Hours later, the second strike came. Articles started popping up on local news sites, tiny blogs, Facebook groups, even the church bulletin's online board. Stories that sounded suspiciously scripted. Amelia Carter accused of financial manipulation. Amelia Carter abandons ailing parents. Wanda's fingerprints were all over it. The same phrases she used to cut me down behind closed doors, now thrown to the masses. She's unstable. She always thought she was better than us. Money changes people. The lies spread like oil on water, fast, ugly, unstoppable. Extended family members I hadn't heard from in years messaged me, some passive-aggressive, some downright cruel. "Guess you finally showed your true colors." You should be ashamed. I sat on my couch, the gray afternoon light slicing across the hardwood floor, letting the anger settle into something harder. Something surgical. This wasn't a family misunderstanding anymore. It was war. I didn't respond. I didn't explain. I called Skyla, my attorney friend who knew exactly how dirty these battles could get. "Screenshot everything," she advised crisply. "Save every post, every comment, every message. Don't engage. Build your case." So I did. Quietly, methodically. Every tear Carla cried into her front-facing camera. Every lie Wanda spun to some desperate Facebook group. Every sneering comment from distant cousins who didn't know the first damn thing about my life. Saved, cataloged, admissible. They wanted a public execution. I was building a legal arsenal. Let them scream into the void. I would answer in court. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning, dropped unceremoniously through my apartment mail slot. A thick packet, official, heavy in my hands, stamped in bold red. Legal notice. I didn't need to open it to know what it was. I knew them too well. Still, I sliced it open, reading each page slowly like sharpening a blade. Stuart Carter, my father, was suing me for control of the lake house, accusing me of elder exploitation, claiming I had manipulated my parents into losing everything. Attached, another bomb. Carla filing a personal claim stating I owed her thousands in unpaid family debts. Fabricated out of thin air. They weren't fighting fair anymore. They were trying to bury me under paper. I drove straight to Damien's office downtown, the packet clutched tight against my chest. Damien barely skimmed the documents before letting out a low, humorless chuckle. "They really think they can gaslight a judge?" he muttered. Skyla arrived minutes later, arms already full of folders, her heels clicking sharp across the marble floor. By noon, the war room was set. Evidence pinned to boards, timelines mapped out, witness lists drafted, forgery, financial manipulation, defamation. Each lie they'd flung into the public was now a loaded weapon, but aimed squarely back at them. 2 weeks later, we stood in the heavy air of the county courthouse. The wooden benches creaked under restless bodies. Family members, real and distant, packed the room, eyes sharp, mouths tight. I didn't look at Carla or Stuart as I entered. I focused straight ahead, heart hammering a steady, ruthless beat. The judge called the case. Opening arguments began. Their lawyers spun stories about loyalty, sacrifice, betrayal, about a greedy daughter who abandoned her aging parents. I kept my face neutral, my spine locked straight. Then Damien rose, calm, precise, and eviscerated them. Signed bank transfers to Carla hidden under the guise of medical loans. Forged documents using my signature. Pixel analysis proving the fraud. Social media posts and live streams painting a false narrative. Time-stamped, screen-captured, undeniable. Under cross-examination, Stuart stumbled. His story shifted. Dates didn't match. Carla's tears dried up when asked basic financial questions. The truth wasn't just slipping through the cracks. It was gushing out in a flood they couldn't stop. I sat there, silent, steady, letting the evidence scream for me. By late afternoon, the judge called both sides into chambers for a preliminary ruling. I gripped the edge of my chair as he spoke, voice even, but heavy with judgment. Given the overwhelming evidence of fraudulent behavior by the plaintiffs, this court finds sufficient cause to dismiss their claims with prejudice. Furthermore, this court recommends criminal investigation into possible financial misconduct. The room buzzed, a low, stunned hum. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I simply exhaled. The first clean breath in months. They bet their future on my silence. I bet mine on the truth. And the truth was louder than all their lies. The courthouse doors slammed shut behind me, but the verdict's echo lingered far longer than any gavel crack. The fallout was swift. Stuart and Carla lost everything. The IRS dug up years of shady finances and unpaid taxes. Their prized lake house was seized to pay debts they could no longer hide. Wanda vanished from public life. No more polished brunch photos or gala snapshots. Their old friends fell away too, whether out of disgust or self-preservation. There was no final showdown, no fireworks, just a heavy, lasting silence. Strangely, I didn't feel triumphant. Watching them fall brought no thrill, only a cold, exhausted relief. Like shedding chains I had carried so long they felt like part of me. 6 months later, I stood outside a small building in downtown Madison. A plain brass plaque by the door read, Freedom House. Inside, volunteers bustled around, setting up chairs and coffee stations, stringing welcome banners. Tonight was the official launch, a center to help women escape financial abuse, offering legal aid, financial classes, emergency housing. A place I desperately needed once, but had to survive without. I tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, heart pounding, not from fear, but from purpose. Across the street, a local news crew was setting up. A few reporters mingled. I caught sight of Skyla and Damien chatting by the snack table, their easy smiles grounding me. The ceremony was simple, a few brief speeches, some quiet applause, no champagne, no big gestures, just a stubborn belief that broken beginnings could still grow into something good. After the last guest left, I wandered the main room alone, running my fingers along the new welcome desk, the resource wall, the rows of pamphlets full of hope. The scars of the past were still there. Some nights, I woke up gasping, Flashes of forged signatures and courtroom scenes still haunting me, but they no longer owned me. They marked me. They shaped me. And now they led me forward. As the first light of dawn crept across the sky, I stepped outside, pulling my coat tight against the chill. Behind me, Freedom House glowed warm against the breaking day. Ahead of me, the world stretched wide and waiting. Freedom isn't about forgetting your scars. It's about living boldly with them. In the end, what this journey taught me is simple. Silence does not protect you. It only delays the moment you must stand up and fight for your worth. If your own family can't see your value beyond what you provide, it's not your failure. It's theirs. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to build a future where your scars remind you of your strength, not your shame. I learned that freedom isn't something anyone hands you. It's something you build, brick by brick, even when your hands are shaking. And maybe, just maybe, your greatest act of love for yourself is walking away from those who never truly loved you at all. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved because they only saw you as what you could give them? What did standing up for yourself teach you? Drop a 1 inch in the comments if this story touched your heart, or tell me where you're watching from. And if you didn't quite connect with it, let me know why. I welcome all perspectives. If you found value in this journey, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next powerful story we'll share together. Let's keep building a community where truth, strength, and healing matter. Thank you for being here.